These are my personal top 6 moments for Europeans in the UFC in 2023. I'm UFC commentator John Gooden, and pretty much each week I spotlight upcoming fighters from Europe in my show Eurowatch. Well, today I'm wrapping 2023. Now, this one was a difficult one to put together as there were so many great moments for the region, certain countries, and of course individual athletes. But I believe I've managed to encapsulate the most significant moments. I'm going to bring them to you over the next few minutes. Coming in at number 6 was Scotland's Paul Craig headlining a UFC fight night. This was a massive coup for Scotland and of course for Paul Craig. The last time the UFC paid Scotland a visit was July of 2017. 4 Scottish fighters appeared that night, underlining the power of Scottish MMA. Now, individually, I feel Paul Craig has been criminally underrated for a long time. At 205 pounds, he was at one point running a 4-fight win streak, 3 performance bonuses. A lot of stuff happened behind the scenes and there were rumblings of retirement talk, but Craig rebounded. He is one of the deadliest submission artists in the UFC, but he never got his main event until this year, when he dropped down to middleweight. God only knows how. Craig's continued career, his results and personality will carry on driving Scottish MMA forward, and that is why it hits my top 6. In at number 5 is Leon Edwards' win over Colby Covington. It was the last fight of 2023 and obviously sits fresh in our minds, and it was a strategically and technically beautiful performance. The champ is starting to get the rightful recognition for everything that makes him a UFC champion. His athleticism, his work ethic, his technical proficiency, and his intelligence. When it comes to fighting in the octagon, there aren't many that can dictate the pace of a fight quite like Edwards can. Whatever you may think, Edwards nullified the usual high pressure, high pace of Covington and made the American fight on Team Edwards' terms. He was also able to perform on one of the biggest stages whilst being provoked with tawdry behaviour from Covington. That leaves him with a 13-fight unbeaten streak dating back to 2016, and that is simply magnificent. In at number 4, and this time we turn our attention to the lightweight champ, Islam Makhachev. His victory over Volkanovski in Abu Dhabi was outstanding. This one was a tough one for me, and I'm sure a lot of you as well, because we love Volkanovski. He's an amazing champion, utterly dominant at 145 pounds, and a stand-up, relatable man outside of the octagon too. But that's what makes Makhachev's performance so great. I'll cut to the chase. Regardless of the conditions surrounding the fight, it was still 2 of the very best fighters of this time, and Makhachev, the noted MMA wrestler, managed to land a pinpoint accurate head kick to pretty much seal the deal. The man keeps getting better, and that's pretty terrifying. Number 3 is a bit of a cop-out, I'll admit it. I'm going with UFC Fight Night Paris. I'm sorry, but I couldn't single out a performance, and for me personally, just a very special night overall. To the French fans, this top spot is largely because of you. The noise and the emotion inside the arena were maybe the most impressive I've ever experienced at a live MMA event, and I've been attending them for over 15 years now. Of course, Morgan Charrier, Taylor Lapillus, Benoit Saint-Denis, Manon Fiorot, and of course Cyril Gane were all responsible for igniting the atmosphere and keeping it alive, but the occasion as a whole is extraordinary. My second biggest moment of 2023 for European MMA belongs to Tom Aspinall. It's been an absolute pleasure watching Aspinall climb the heavyweight ladder, and to witness the comeback from injury and the way he has performed is quite remarkable. From his demolitions of juggernauts like Volkov and Tybura, to the late notice call-up at Madison Square Garden to face the scariest man in the UFC, Aspinall has approached the tasks with an authenticity not often seen these days. And then the fights themselves, oh boy. Well, let's talk the title fight most specifically. Just wow, like who does that? Aspinall has beaten a good few different styles, including now the ferocity of Pavlovich, and he's looked so very complete. It has taken Aspinall just 134 strikes in 8 fights to secure UFC gold. To put that in perspective, Edwards threw 120 significant strikes in his 3rd fight with Usman alone. Aspinall is clinical, and I can't wait to see what he brings to 2024. And my top spot goes to Leon Rocky Edwards and his trilogy win over Kamaru Usman at UFC 286 in London, England. There's quite a bit to unpack in this one, but let's start with the crowd. It was a raucous homecoming for Rocky, and that's significant because the previous time he fought in London, he was booed during his walkout due to his rivalry with Darren Till, but boy has he turned the fans around. which is a cheeky segue to the turnaround in his second fight with Usman in Salt Lake City. There's no other way of describing it than a monumental comeback. Edwards was being beaten, but in something that wouldn't look out of place in Hollywood, he turned it all around. He flipped the script. But in London, he had to prove it wasn't a fluke, and he did. 48-46 on 2 scorecards, and that included a point deduction for Edwards as well. He got the job done. He got it done at home, bringing a pay-per-view to the shores of the UK for the first time since Michael Bisping defended his title against Hendo at UFC 204 in 2016. He has etched his name into the history books. He looks on track to break even more records while spearheading the continued rise of MMA in the UK. Thank you for checking this out and also for engaging with Eurowatch throughout 2023. It is a super exciting time for European MMA and I can't wait to keep shouting about it. Happy New Year, my friends. I wish you all the very best of health and happiness in 2024. Until next year.